r/AskReddit. People who ignored the "don't try this at home" warning. What did you do? When I was about 10, I folded myself into a sleeper sofa with the help of my cousin. Here's why this is an incredible bad idea. You cannot breathe, you cannot move, you can shout for help, but your cries for help will travel at best 5 feet because your mouth is smothered by a mattress. The spring mechanism in combination with your weight will make it nearly impossible for someone to pull the mattress back out, unless they are very strong or you are very light. My cousin had to run upstairs to get a grown-up to flip the sofa on its side so I could roll out. If I did this stunt while I was by myself, I probably would have suffocated very quickly. I had the great idea to fire some fireworks inside my house. You can try it at home, but I would not recommend it. It was fun though. I was told to not try making small firecrackers at home. I still have all 9 of my fingers. And I had fun too. Built a flamethrower out of spray paint cans. I tried to make a potato launcher out of PVC pipe. One summer day, the guy on the YouTube video said not to try it at home without adult supervision. But of course at the ripe age of 15 I wasn't about to let that stop me. So I went to the garage and gathered all of the required materials. My parents probably wouldn't notice a bunch of PVC in their sack of potatoes was missing anyways. And proceeded to build my masterpiece. I figured that just having it shoot straight would be kinda lame. So I decided to pseudo-mod it by cutting a slit into the edge of the PVC cap to act as a sort of scope. Thing is, I forgot to shave off the ends that were stuck on the barrel and proceeded to fire off my first round. I ended up getting potato bits everywhere in my garage and almost cut my arm open on a flying piece of PVC. Remember kids, do not try this at home is a valid warning. Probably every wrestling move on my brothers in 2001 sometimes went wrong and hurting them. Powerbomb on wooden edge of the bed. My brother and I made thermite in high school and melted a gamma cube, among other things, with it. I feel like Adam Savage and Jamie Hyneman told us not to try that at home at least once. When I was like 10-11 my friends and I used to imitate Jackass. But our show was called Dumbus. I was the biggest one out of all of us so I took the brunt of the damage. One of the dumbest things we did was have me stand on an office chair and another of my friends drop kicked it. I ended up falling face first onto the floor. I wasn't too injured, but it hurt. My friends and I recently used our pool skimmer to have a pole vaulting tournament as seen on a nationwide commercial. The fact that the idea came from an insurance commercial should have been enough to deter us. Ended up vaulting all the way to the far end of the pool and smashed my feet into the wall. Besides my 2 sprained ankles, everyone else was fine. Pool skimmer worked really well as a pole. Edit. Apparently it was actually United Healthcare, which doesn't help our case much. I tried to rebuild the paper crossbow from Mythbusters along with many other things from this show. Royal Rumble in the back garden. 4-on-4. Fly kick my cousin into the wall. Crack his head open. Goes to the hospital and gets stitches. Few years later he tried pushing me into the pool. Pulled him in with me and his chin caught the edge. More stitches. We don't talk much these days. Remember lawn darts? My group of friends made our own rules. 2 teams. One in the front yard. One in the back. 1 member from each team on the side lawn from where you could see both teams at the same time. The goal was to rifle that fucking dart. We only had 1. Lost the others in a game of woods darts, over the house. And make a member of the other team, rightfully afraid for their life, move out of the way of the dart. 1 point if you made them move. -1 point if it landed within arm's reach and they didn't move. This game lasted until someone's parents came home and were horrified when they saw what we were doing. The 80s were a simpler, bloodier time. A shame the potentially most interesting ones won't be able to post a reply. For varying reasons. Put orange juice in a soda stream and tried to carbonate it. It had a warning saying not to do it. I read said warning. I'm usually not the type of person who ignores warnings, but this didn't seem like it would be an issue. I thought it was because the carbonator tube would get sticky and clog, but I thought that I could clean it. Nope. That's not why. It fucking explodes. I was finding sticky spots for months. I hit a basketball-sized hornet nest with a baseball bat. Much stinging. Much pain. You know those Parker videos? I tried doing some of that when I was 12. I jumped from a bench onto a small wall and I landed on my belly. Ugh. That was painful. I couldn't breathe and my thighs hit the edge. So I couldn't walk either. But I looked cool. Right? I sabered a bottle of champagne and it was pretty epic. I was staying at my friend Ben's house, who was a bit of a latchkey kid. The movie Daredevil had just come out. And I was maybe 12. It was 2 in the morning and we were busy skating around the front of his house, annoying the fuck out of his neighbors. I got the awesome idea that we should light the skate rail we had on fire, just like in Daredevil. So, I grabbed a can of gasoline that was sitting in his garage, and proceeded to coat the rail with it. After coating the rail with the gasoline, I lit the gas and it was a little lackluster. I figured, let's just throw some more gas on this thing. So I did. The gas trickling out of the can caught fire and the can exploded in my hand. Luckily, my reflexes saved my ass and I let go of the can just as the flame hit it. Ben's lawn was completely aflame. I just walked inside and didn't do anything about it because I didn't want to get in trouble. TLDR, tried to be Ben Affleck. Lit my friend's lawn on fire. I drank antifreeze on purpose. It's both spicy and sweet at the same time, not in a Chinese food kind of way. In a chemical reaction on your tongue kind of way. It's delicious and if you taste it you'll understand why animals and children will drink it. Not recommended. Launched bottle rockets out my buddy's ear gauges. Edit. Good news guys. Found the video. I'm the guy in the red shirt. Kyle. Yes I know. Everyone has hate for Kyle. https://yahoo.be/omdmp5u6jck. I ate toilet paper after watching Strange Addictions because she made it look so delicious. So, I wore a baseball hat a little too much. And had this huge ass clogged pore skin type thing on my forehead. It looked like a pencil eraser smack dab in the middle of my forehead. Had it for 2 months with no change. I researched online and found that with a bottle of Jack Daniels and a few friends, that I could use wart freeze off and might have some luck with getting it off. I told my doctor and she laughed in my face. She said good luck with that. Let me know how it works out. I took that as a challenge. And just to make sure, verified there was no major facial nerves that I might accidentally freeze. In the end, it worked better than I thought. I essentially killed all the cell tissue. And it fell off. And healed up fine. 10/10 would do again. Me and my friend decided to golf off each other when we were around 14. The initial idea was to drive off the tea that was in our mouth. But common sense kicked in and we decided against it. But still wanting to go through with it, we decided to do it. With our butt cheeks. Cringe. Full stop. I went first as the hitter. And it went way better than I expected. I lined that shit up and drove it as far as I could. While still caring for my friend's buttocks safety. Not a scratch on him so I was ready to be hit off. I laid down on my stomach and put the tee in place. And my friend lined his shot up once and goes all in for his swing. He follows through and puts the driver right into my ass cheeks. And at that moment it felt like everything I once knew was wrong. And my ass was fucking hurting like hell. But that's besides the point. Listen to the advisory kids. Edit. Thank you for the guild you beautiful soul. That should replace my ass pain with something nice. My brother and I would play WWE with some of our friends as kids. And the jackass would never let anyone win. So one day he came after me when I had one of the championships. I forgot to say that he had the other 2 belts. So he and I had a match. And at one point I decided to go for a powerbomb. I couldn't lift him up all the way and dropped him on the air conditioner. Accidentally. He was on the ground. Lying in the fetal position in a puddle of water so I went for the pin. And the bastard puts his arm up. I remember the kids that were doing commentary screaming out of shock. I waited for him to get up and went for a super kick. I missed and he pushed me into the bottom left corner of the window. and that piece broke and I got a cut on my forehead. I wanted to cry so bad, but he tackled me into the wall, put me on the bed and did a rock bottom from the bed onto the floor. He pushed me off the goddamn bed. He pinned me and won my damn cardboard belt. He held all the titles in our little wrestling group at the time, and I still hate him for it. I was around 3/4 and my sister was 18 mths/2, and after watching Barbie Swan Lake before bed we decide to imitate the scene where Odette jumps the waterfall in the bedroom we shared. Me being the eldest, naturally went first, jumping from our windowsill onto our bedroom floor. I landed it and felt like a boss. Then came baby sister's turn. She broke her leg trying to copy me. Needless to say, she can't remember much. I thought myself and my parents have fond memories of her running round the garden with a neon pink cast. She now claims she got her revenge by pushing me off my scooter when I was 8 and she was 6, so I broke both bones in my arm. Unfortunately, I can remember that a lot more and spent a holiday abroad in a bright orange cast. I arrived at a party maybe 15 minutes after they put on Beer Fest in the background. This was right after it came on DVD. I said I'll try to drink with them. People told me don't do that. They literally had a warning saying not to do exactly that. Punched a hole in the wall. Woke up my mother from vomiting so loud and shit my pants. My friend had access to dry ice our sophomore year of college from his research gig. We filled water bottles with dry ice and some water, and capped them, throwing them and watching them blow up in mounds of Buffalo, NY snow. One didn't detonate, so I decided to defuse it, instead of it detonating as some stranger walks by, and it went off in my hand. Miraculously nothing more than a few scrapes on my hand, and 30 minutes of being deaf in my right ear. Almost made a friend go to the ER while playing WWE. Went to my neighbor's house and did it there instead. Ugh. I cringe whenever I remember this. When I was 12/13, the movie Jackass was really popular and my friends and I would watch it almost daily. We thought they were all so cool and funny for doing stupid shit for the sake of a laugh. Well, we would try to recreate some of the stupid gigs they performed. One day while my mom took my friends and me to the grocery store, my friends convinced me to pull a prank on some dude shopping. I grabbed a huge pack of toilet paper, walked right up behind this dude, and threw the TP at this guy's back. He turned around and screamed at me, a little nerdy 12-year-old girl in glasses, and walked away. I have never been more mortified since then, and from that day on I decided that Jackass was actually really fucking stupid and immature. Produced chlorine gas through electrolysis of salt water in my bedroom. Used the power outlet as my direct source of power. Used a shit ton of tannerite on a giant propane tank that apparently had some propane left in it. I have roughly 40% hearing in my left ear and 60% in my right, and degrading because of it. My idiot cousin shot it before I was in the trench and had my hearing protection on. I got thrown into the hole and couldn't hear for days because of the shockwave. His brother got thrown into the hole and was in a medically induced coma for a few days to try to stop brain damage. He's okay, but not 100% anymore. My dumb fuck cousin lost several teeth when I knocked him out a week later in retaliation. He then lost some more when his brother beat the shit out of him. Oh. I actually have an interesting story. When I was young, less than 7, I watched an episode of Zoom where they made mold. Being the curious little scientist I was, I reproduced their experiments to ensure the science was sound. I filled an egg carton with milk, cereal, and cheese. I did this all in secret, of course. I actually hid the carton in a dresser. Perfect hiding place. It was dark and warm, so the mold grew like mad. Sadly, this genius experiment was cut short by my mother. She went to open the dresser, only to find it jammed a little tight. It eventually gave way, spilling the contents all over my clothes. Coincidentally, I'm allergic to mold. Dry ice and a little bit of water in a plastic bottle. Bad idea. Bottle expanded but did not explode. We basically had an armed bomb laying on a soccer field next to a playground. We had to make it explode somehow, so my dad took a long stick and hit it a couple of times. The bottle finally exploded and my dad heard ringing in his ears for about a year. We did not find any traces of the bottle. Here is the video. https://www.youtube.com/watch?vecals dr7jk9ugkrom% feature equals sciauto.be. Edit. Row. This post blew up. Woke up with a full inbox and Reddit gold. Thanks for that. Just so you know, Dad is not actually Donald Duck. He just looks like him. Very interesting to read your stories in the comments. It will keep me occupied for a while. Anything they did on gladiators. Or at least, the best approximation a bunch of 8-year-olds can construct between themselves. I never ignored the don't try this at home, but I did frequently visit sites where I had to confirm I was 18 plus all throughout my teens. Jumped from the turnbuckle, my bunked, through a table. Still have the scar on my forehead where I had to get like 10 stitches almost 15 years later. I threw knives at my sister's feet after watching a YouTube video and getting really inspired. I jumped off a 2-story roof holding an exercise ball to land on. It actually worked. Chopped up a Christmas tree and stuffed it in the fireplace. Then lit it. Sounded like a space shuttle launch. Don't do it. In middle school my friends and I built a ballista. That went swimmingly as one can imagine. Holes in all the neighbors' siding. Flaming arrows accidentally soaring into yards hundreds of meters away. We were on top of a hill in a neighborhood. And other things that I can't or won't remember. Quite impressive actually for being 12-13 years old. Played hacky sack with those long braids of firecrackers. Did WWE and UCF stuff with my friends. We would grapple about and do submission moves on each other. Didn't know how effective the sleeper hold was till I almost choked my friend out. Also triangle chokes. Arm bars and leg bars hurt like hell. The Boston Crab. Not so much. Built a railgun at a friend's dad's machine shop out on his farm back in 10th grade. We cut a small tree in half with the single bolt I made. Our capacitor array wasn't set up the best and the transference rails had some intense arcing, powerful enough that the affected parts of the rails were completely vaporized. Took about a week and a half to build everything out of scrap his dad had around the shop. That was incredibly amazing but scared the fuck out of us. His dad was on board with it until we actually fired it. He was expecting something along the lines of an oversized BB gun in power. Not a cannon equivalent to a high-powered rifle. Fucking hell. Can't you kids just make a damn potato gun? In hindsight, I'm glad I had the thought to block the thing from view because the arcing probably could have had permanent effects on our sight. My brother and I got the bright idea to see what happens if you put one of the CO2 cartridges used for BB guns into a fireplace. Long story short, the resulting explosion filled most of the main floor of the house with flying chunks of burning wood. Mom was not amused. Mixed ammonia and bleach to pour down the drain during a fruit fly infestation. Everyone lived. The fruit flies were no more. Success. Lit a smoke bomb indoors. Hilarious until mom got home and found the scorch marks. Used a dry chemical fire extinguisher inside with no fire to extinguish. Hilarious but tastes horrible. Shorted the tracks of a vintage model train to make sparks. I have a scar from where the piece of metal landed. 32 Benadryl is way more than you should take for allergies. Just enough to have a conversation with a stranger in the bathroom mirror. As a father of a 2-year-old boy, reading these comments are pretty fucking terrifying. Who knows what stupid shit he is going to get into. 8th grade. Metal shop teacher told us scary stories about safety so we wouldn't chop our fingers off in any of the dangerous metalworking equipment. One day he told us about putting match heads in spent 22 shells and hitting that with a hammer. The climax of the story was when he dramatically showed his thumb, which was missing the end joint. Presumably the punishing result of the aforementioned crafting activity. The instant we got out of school, a group of us went looking for spent 22 shells, which were curiously easy to find. Now that I think of it, we got a box of barn burner matches and set to detonating. Those things are loud, and they shred the brass in interesting ways. This went on until one of the spectators got a hunk of sharp hot brass in his cheek and ran howling down the street. We scattered. And nothing was ever said about the whole incident. Until now. Melted polystyrene with petrol to make a gooey mess. I tied a cardboard tube to a tree, lathered the inside, introduced flame and used compressor form. Front looked and sounded like a jet engine. A neighbor though I was building a WMD. Stuck a spoon in a blender. With predictable results. At home bikini wax. Many regrets. I rafted a Class VI Rapid. Unrunnable. I'll never see that river again. There was a lot of focus. Screaming. Laughing and whiskey. Don't ever try that at home. Nope. I was a rebel kid at turn of the century. Without real internet access to watch videos. We learned to make stuff from books and text files we shared on floppy disk. We made napalm once, which was pretty bad. It stuck to the ground and I think the mark is still there to this day. We made thermite too. But there was nothing to burn through and grass wasn't that impressive. Tennis ball hand grenades were always a fun one. They never looked like they would hurt. If there was tennis courts nearby, we'd always sneak one onto the court. I think the worst was probably fireworks fights. You know how it says not to point them at people? We did. Bangers being thrown at you was normal. Someone using a Roman candle as an RPG? My little brother and I were jumping off a 6 or 7 foot wall into a bush because we watched Jackass and thought it looked fun. Half an hour later I'm going to the hospital with a 1.5 inch diameter stick lodged 4 inches into my left hamstring. Not fun. Split a cucumber by throwing knives at it. We would take bottle rockets, light them, then toss them into the air by the end of the long little stick part so they'd flip end over end in midair. To see where they'd go once they lit off. It was amazing how often they came right back at us. We would also take firecrackers, light them, then throw them like grenades. It makes a stingy, throbby, painful sensation in your hand if one goes off early. A lot of us got shot with BB guns. A lot of windows got shot with them. 2. This was pre-internet. Pre-video games. Pre-helicopter parents. 1980-ish. I'll hold my beer. Nair on my eyebrows to make them on fleek. You can't about fill in the rest. My uncle saw the video of the 50-foot table with the tablecloth trick being pulled off but done with a huge car and he wanted to try that. So he and my aunt went to a garage sale. Got a bunch of dining ware and went to a nice open field and tried it. It sort of worked. They did the math that they'd have to go 0-70 or something really fast for it to actually work. I recreated the Jackass stunt where Johnny Knoxville straps bottle rockets to rollerblades and got second-degree burns on my leg. It's been 14 years. I still have the scar and hair still doesn't grow on that part of my leg. I was about 10 or 11 when I broke an old analog thermometer. Drained the mercury from the bulb. Then I proceeded to incorporate the tiny glob of mercury into all my little games for almost a week before the insides of my elbows and backs of my knees turned red and swollen. Got a stern lecture from the doctor : tried to leap over a toboggan with 6 guys on it, it turned sideways just before it got to me, to avoid being slammed by it coming full speed down a steep hill covered in ice. I didn't quite make it. Positive side. Now I know what shock feels like. It feels like nothing is wrong. Which was good. Negative side. Doc said going bald would be a very bad idea because I will frighten children with the horrendous scars. I have never shaved my head. The scars are easy to feel under my hair. Like a topographical map of all your favorite mountain ranges. I drank a glow stick. I was maybe 4 years old. I asked my grandmother what it tasted like and she said let's find out. She cut the top with a pair of heavy fabric scissors and I took a little sip. I spotted out on contact. It both burned and made my mouth numb. That's all I remember. Years later my mom would tell me that was the day she knew my grandmother was losing her mind. We lived on a street that was on a huge hill. And my neighbor and I had the bright idea of sitting in the back of one of these and hauling us down the hill. I woke up in the hospital with 30+ stitches on my chin after hitting a rock at the bottom of the hill. Did some DIY project when I moved to my own place as a teenager. Painting the wall and gluing some stone tiles to it. I used some insanely strong super glue and accidentally glued my fingers together. I didn't stop there. Since I couldn't use the brush well, due to glued fingers, I used spray paint instead of wall paint to finish it. That room was 2 by 2 meters and the spray chemicals had some effects after all. I remember peeling off glue and parts of my skin, laughing and crying at the same time. My mom came to visit at that time, and she got worried that moving out of their place was a very bad idea. Friends and I were putting stuff in the microwave. Eggs not only explode, but they're hot as fucking napalm. Tombstone pillar drived my brother. He super kicked me. My friends and I were at a party and there was a dry pine tree to burn. It was like September or something. So we dug a hole in the fire pit, stood it straight up and lit the bottom. Big flames. Very big flames. Horrible idea. We were the only ones outside when we started building the fire and it was loud enough that everyone came running outside lol. I used to jump out of second-story windows and trees for the hell of it. Bend your knees and roll when your feet hit and you'll be fine. Well, most of the time this is the proper way to land if you're falling a decent distance. I've also made thermite, jellied gasoline, ghetto napalm. You get the point. Shot a propane tank with various caliber guns until it blew up. Shot a snake with 12 gauge shotgun loaded with birdshot, little pellets, and got hit by ricochet from some metal shit that was on the ground by the snake. 3 or 4 pellets. All they did was break the skin and hurt pretty damn bad. One did hit my face a few inches below my eye. Riding a wagon, as in a red generic wood wagon, down a steep ass pond levee repeatedly until the wagon broke. Hooked a wakeboard, I think. The big heavy ones, to a 4-wheeler and rode on it and ramped stuff. Jumped off multiple bridges. Climbing up buildings. The list could go on. The irony is, I have a bad back. But it's naturally bad and the only time I ever really injured it was falling downstairs. Putting gas on a fire from a gas can. It worked great up until it didn't. I had done it dozens of times with no problems. Then one day, it followed the vapors back into the can and ignited it. The can exploded and damn near took my hand off. Thankfully the handle had been reinforced so I got off with bruising and swelling in my hand and on my side. So, don't try this at home. You might not think it will happen to you but it can and given enough time. Probably will. My friends and I got the idea of squeezing ourselves into a tire and rolling down a hill from a YouTube video and To Kill a Mockingbird. The former definitely had a warning. I broke an arm when I smashed into a tree. Highlighted my extremely dark, curly hair with an at-home cap and bleach kit. People called me Reese's because of the awful contrast in my hair. Apparently it looked like a peanut butter cup. Mr. Wizard showed me how to electrocute cook a hot dog by plugging it straight into the AC. I was like 11. Somehow I didn't get hurt. Hot dog tasted okay. When you buy pump sprayers, they clearly state that you shouldn't put fuel in them. For my birthday, I sprayed down 30 plus dried out Christmas trees with one of those sprayers on the beach, after planting them like a forest. Then lit them by flinging a flaming javelin at them. The result was a very fun birthday party. I've got 2. Had a Roman candle fight on motor scooters. My friend's GF got hit in the tit and it burned through her shirt and scorched her boob. Filled a plastic bottle with gas and kerosene and added a wick. Lit it in a park and was sorely disappointed when it just slowly burned. Melted over itself. Burned some more. Melted and repeated. Disappointment turned to fear when the grass caught fire and we were 2 blocks from any water. Had to stomp it out while picking up a burning gas bottle with sticks and throw it in a trash can. No joke. We get back to my friend's house and his mom is watching a news story about 2 boys seen fleeing a burning park. Turns out it was a park on the other side of town. We were fucking morons that day. Stepbrother and I got drunk and attempted to make ghetto napalm. We lived in the country at the time so figured if we set something on the property on fire how big a deal could it be? Plus it had rained for days and days beforehand so we weren't worried about it spreading. Anyway we borrowed a massive plastic measuring cup my mother had. We filled it with gasoline and started to feed strips of styrofoam into the gas. It was working fine until one of the strips wasn't dissolving correctly so my brother leaned over to push it further into the gas. He had a cigarette dangling from his mouth. I shouted, "Hey, watch it." But it was too late. He drunkenly miscalculated the distance, got too close and somehow dropped the smoke into the cup. It went up instantly and in his panic he grabbed it and started running around the yard as the melting cup flung sticky globs of flame all about. I grabbed the water hose and ran behind him trying to put it out the flames as he became the Johnny Appleseed of yard fires. Long story short, don't make napalm at home drunk. And don't lean toward flammables with a cigarette in your mouth. I'm from India, and when we were kids, like in late 90s, there was a TV show called Shaktiman who was like Captain America for India. He used to fly and shit. There was a scene where he saved dozens of people who were thrown down from the building by a villain, and he used his super fast speed to save them all. My younger brother jumped from a building and his last words were "Shaktiman Bachao, save me Shaktiman," thinking he will save him and he will get to meet his fav superhero. There have been more than 20 cases like these. I don't feel bad talking about it as it's been far too long. Yay. Tried it at home. I hit a guy juggling balls on a unicycle with an ice cream truck. When I was like 10, I jumped off my 15-foot deck with an umbrella. Yay. Don't try that. If you want to get nothing in return, you can like and join my Discord. There is a link in the description.